How we doing, everybody? We are joined by the Queen of Green, High Times editor alum, executive editor of Sensi Media Group, and Women's Cannabis Cup founder, Jen Bernstein. How you doing?
How's it going? Are we all shoveling out of the snow this morning?
I got ripped off. It snowed a little bit, but I'm down in Maryland, so it turned to rain about halfway through.
Yeah, we got rain too.
That was the end of it. I feel like I'm glad my kids are old enough. They're 17 and 19 now that they got to see snow because since COVID, I can't remember a
It's
good snow.
global weirding, man.
Totally. So now you're executive editor of Sensi Media Group.
Yeah, I've been working with Sensi for a
Is that
while.
where we are?
Yeah, Sensi, and then we had some High Times. Am I glitchy?
Nice. Very good. And what does Sensi Media Group do?
So basically, it's a cannabis lifestyle publication. They publish in Colorado, Michigan, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma. And a lot of people don't know, but Oklahoma is the wild west of weed. And they haven't fully legalized, they have medical. And they actually voted down going rec because their medical system works. And when you do go fully legal, there are some issues, right? Higher taxes. They usually put caps on THC. But like I said, it's the Wild West, right? There's
Right.
no cap grow, meaning fields and fields of ganja, and no limits on THC.
It's fascinating. Maryland, we recently legalized. I'm down outside of Baltimore, but I can't buy concentrates. I can only buy flowers and edibles.
Right. Yeah. So, that would be an issue. And Oklahoma has some of the most fire, concentrates.
Nice.
And, as we've been learning, it's less and less about the THC content. It's more about, the full plant and the terpene or terpenoid profile. When I was at High Times, the big strain kind of coming out before Skittles was Tangy. And you would get these really strong notes of, tangerine. And obviously, like, we knew the grower out in California. And, that I felt kind of was the tipping point or the turning point of people starting to understand the beautiful intricacies that this female plant, right? That's the plant that we're smoking. It's a female plant where we're getting the buds from, and understanding it a little bit more.
Right. What do you think happened with High Time that they didn't become an internet behemoth? Like they could have, it seems like they could have been so huge, but they went more the blockbuster route, you know?
Yeah, it's been disappointing to see, because when I started in 2011, we were the renegades, right? We were the rebels on the block. We were the largest cannabis brand in the world, right? I would get flown around the world to smoke weed and publish a magazine. Don't forget, like every 3 weeks, we were publishing a magazine, and all of a sudden now we were doing events. Fine with me. We can get it all done. Stoners are productive. But um, I gave birth in 2015. I was I think the first woman to have a baby and then go back to High Times. Why would you give up that dream job? And it was shortly after that the company sold, right? So we were a small family company that's, had started by Tom Forsad, a drug smuggling pilot in 1974. He committed suicide in 77, and his family had run the company ever since. So in about 2015, weed is blowing up. Everybody sees dollar signs, right? This is the biggest, boom in the industry since the SF tech boom, right? So all this money is flooding in, and High Times decides to sell. They moved to LA, and the guy who bought the company was famous for flipping businesses, right? He had bought Cheesecake Factory and then, franchised it and kind of like, shot it out into the world. I believe it was his hope. I didn't stick around to find out because I was not leaving New York City, that he wanted to do the same with High Times. And, you're really starting to see the commercialization of big business and cannabis. Didn't go so well, right? There's so many
Right.
legalities. Businesses aren't able to write off normal business expenses like they'd want to because it's still federally illegal. Weed is still a substance one drug, meaning it has no medicinal benefits, which we know is a crock of shit. I use cannabis daily for my health issues. Like, it's the one thing that helps my stomach. Even Pete Davidson, right, from SNL and, Kim's Little Boy Toy, he came over to High Times. And this is when he was on SNL, and he was talking about how he could not perform without weed. And for similar issues that I have, like stomach issues and, nerves, whatever. And NBC didn't like it. NBC did not want him showing up at High Times. They did not want him talking about his drug use. And even though, we've legalized in 28 states now, I think the majority of Americans, I think we're in the 80s now. It used to be like 64% of Americans, but now we're in the 80s. It's like, we all want weed. And Earl Blumenauer, the representative for Oregon, puts out a marijuana memo every year. And he basically said to Biden and Harris that nobody has ever been penalized for wanting to promote the legalization. So why don't we just do it?
Right. There you go. There you go. It boggles my mind that it hasn't been done when it seems like a nonpartisan issue. I mean, the people I know who love either political party are both smokers.
Right. Right. Yeah. I
Oh
mean,
my.
we all want to just hit the bong. So
Right. No. Is this the kind of stuff that you have a show on Instagram, I guess it is, called Beautiful Buzz Show. Is this the kind of stuff that you get into on there?
well, we took a hiatus after the pandemic. So for the first 60 days, I really missed our cannabis community. I missed our Phish community. And people don't know how to roll joints anymore. Right. So I would sit there at the start of every show and show these kids, right? Like, this is analog weed. It's not a concentrate. This is the old school. This is what we used to do. Now, I'm not trying to date myself, but wait, is this a single show? No, just a second.
Yeah.
But back in the day, people had, would take out their records and break up the seeds and the stems in their record albums.
Right. One of the Bob Marley albums, when you opened it up, on the inside of the gatefold, it said, "This album is perfect for cleaning weed."
I love it. I love it.
So let me ask you then, what rolling versus stuffing cones? I feel like stuffing cones is such a cop out.
It is. I feel like you get a little bit like further removed from the plant, but at the same time, when you're rolling like, I don't know, 10, 15 joints for your MSG, Phish night, you want to be sure, like, no one's going to sit there. I mean, I'm a pretty fast roller, but there is something to be said for like grinding a bunch of weed and just being able to scoop it in.
Right.
I only say that because I have some sponsors called Pop and they would love to hear that.
Right. When I used to deliver pizzas many moons ago, the last millennium, I learned to drive with my knee and to roll a joint while I was driving.
Wow. See, that's impressive. Yeah, that's good stuff. And if you could put
So
that on a resume, you'd probably get hired at High Times.
right, exactly. I need to throw that on there, definitely.
This
So
is,
so let me ask you
yeah,
about Can of Fam?
yeah.
Is this an event you have coming up?
So this is something new that I want to reach out to the cultivators and the I'd say the PH family of the weed world. There's so many of us now that are in the industry, and it's kind of like the circle's getting smaller all the time. We want to kind of bring everybody in and get everybody into the same room. So what better time than, around 420? We all want our sphere write-offs. So, having a place where I think fans can come and get to know their fellow, PH family and get to know the growers, ask questions, and then they get a chance to get their products in front of our fan base because you're flying into town or you're driving into town. If you can just go to the Reef dispensary and get your gift bag that is probably going to have so much weed in it, you'll be taking stuff home with you from the run, and get your 420 supply pack so you're set. I
That's a
think it's a
good deal.
win-win. Yeah, it's a win-win for everyone. You buy a ticket, you get all this free weed.
Right.
So
I find it fascinating. I was reading a book called Black Elk Speaks, and he
okay.
was a Sioux Indian, and he was giving his life story. And when they were talking about being a hunting culture and then becoming an agricultural culture, but they had their hands on it. And it got me thinking about when I go buy a pack of ground beef and make a hamburger, I have no connection. There's no spiritual connection, there's no ritual involved with it. And it's sad that we lost that. And what scares me with legalization is that we're going to move further in that direction because capitalism has taken root in it.
That's true. What does Trey write in Gamehenge about avarice and you know?
Greed, right? Yeah.
So I think 20-year-old Trey was onto something there, right?
Yeah, he was. He was. All right, let's make that turn. I know that you were there on New Year's Eve. What Give me some overall first impressions, and then I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about Tela, which I would love to. Let's dive
Yeah.
into that.
So Praziculus, I was on a family vacation in Florida. I had done a house swap with my best tour girl, Kelly. She lives in the Tampa area. I've got my 8-year-old kid for the winter break, and I was like, I want to give my daughter a vacation. We're going down to Florida. I bought the webcast. I was not going to New Year's Eve. I was like, I'm going to have FOMO, but I'll be fine. Family is really important. My dad died from COVID 3 years ago today.
Mm.
May his memory be a blessing. And if we can laugh through this show, that is the best because he was the funniest guy. And our community really wrapped their arms around me when we were all going through this. So I love being here. I thought about that today. Anyways, so I wasn't going to the show and I woke up and I don't know, maybe it was 2 days before and I changed my flight. I was supposed to fly back to New York City on the 1st. I was like, I can't miss New Year's. And I had read, I think on Instagram, that Mike had said, don't miss this New Year's. And for Mike to say, I mean, Mike always says, don't miss a New Year's, but I think he knew that this one was going to be pretty special.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
their manager said it. There was some conference that the manager spoke at, and when he was talking to the guy after, he said, "If you're a real fan, don't miss this one."
right. So there were little, crumbs along the way that were, I guess, signaling, which is what Phish does best, I guess.
Yes.
Right. And I just knew I had to be there. So it didn't matter how much money it took to book that flight and change our flight. We woke up at 4:45 that morning and made our 7:30 flight. And when the beginning notes of Gamehenge started, and this is something, these notes are so ingrained into our soul. I don't know how many times you've listened to The Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday, but I was given a cassette tape in the 10th grade by the first chair cello. I was a second violin and I sat in the last row. I was not good.
Right.
But when the first chair cello hands you a tape and it says Gamehenge Saga on it, you're like, I'm going to listen to this. And I'd say, through high school, through college, how many people I turned on, like driving around in my minivan, hot boxing it, and
Right.
listening to my friggin' vanity plate on my car was Forbin.
Nice. That's
So anyway,
fantastic.
in like 98 and probably 2002, you
Right, that was your thing.
yeah,
I had when I was first given it, it was years after I discovered Phish because it was in the early 90s. There was it was tougher, put it that way. It was tougher to get tapes. But the copy I got on one channel was just Trey speaking, and on the other channel was just the music. So I decided I was going to mix it, and I took and ran it into one side of a tape, then took that tape and ran it onto both sides, so I had the music and the vocals.
could you hear it like all together? And did it really make a difference, or did it like take out
It
the quality?
it just messed with me if I had to listen with headphones. I was living in my mother's basement at the time. So with him talking in one ear and just the music in the other, it just drove me crazy. So I spent a good 6 hours figuring out how to like remaster it with two tape decks.
That's a crazy thing to do. And I'm sure you were very high and trying to figure it out at the same time.
It was, but yeah, it's so formational. It's there's actually on YouTube somebody took and did animation and have the whole thing. There's a video of it, which if you want the whole thing, you haven't heard it, check it
Yeah.
out. But
Well,
so they're doing it when Jimmy comes up. Were you like, nah, they're really going to go Broadway?
my friend Taylor, who I invited with me because I had 2 tickets to the show, thanks to the higher ups that be. It's his reaction, right? It's the holy fucking shit. And all I could say was wow, just wow. And I mean, to get a harpua, it's kind of like in the Jewish religion, we say Dainu, right? Around Passover. Like it would have been enough if like Moses just let us out of Egypt, Dainu. It would have been enough if we had the matzah, right? Dainu, like we were fed, we got through the desert. And I'm like here sitting, I haven't seen a harpua in forever. I was just happy that and then, to go into Gamehenge, yes. And if you look at the tiny details, like the tiny things, like there's so much to notice when you go back and you watch. And they're all like these little, I was going to say, Easter eggs, but they're like fish eggs, right? They're all these little fish eggs that are really interesting choices or visuals
Right.
I just noticed somebody had posted a video and on Rutherford's like coat of arms, it's a lizard with like 2 swords. I don't know, it's just like interesting. And then somebody posted a photo of Jimmy's like bedside table, and there's like a bunch of records. There's an America record. There's
There's
2 books.
hair. There's hair, and Annie Golding played Jeannie in the movie of Hair.
That's what I'm saying, dude. The levels. Who wrote this? That's what I want
Somebody,
to know.
yeah, they spent it was the high school nerds all together. Trey was just in his element. He spent every day there for weeks. He was like, I can't wait to get over to.
It's pretty, I mean, it's so remarkable. And then, yeah, and then Jimmy with a puppet, right? The cat. And then I thought that, I think it was Mischief Studios. I mean, I don't know everybody who worked on the on the production,
They
but
all signed NDAs because we've reached out to some people and they're like, "I'd love to talk to you, but we signed an NDA."
really, it's so bizarre, right? And I think, and then even the backing vocalists, right?
Mhm.
There was just so much going on that was so thoughtful and well represented.
Mm.
And I wonder why this year, instead of other years. I feel like maybe the time was
Well,
finally
the
right.
the the 83 show thing that they only did 7 shows this summer instead of playing the Sunday night, well, it all makes sense now because they needed to be at 79 in order to
Right. To make it so it's like some crazy numerology. 83 shows, their 83rd show at the Garden. They started, right, in
yeah,
1980. It's their 40th anniversary. They're going for it.
right, the Holy Grail. Mike said yes.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you to everybody. Because the thing is, it's Trey's senior thesis.
The look on his eyes when like the sloth came out or the
Yeah.
ACDC bag, you could just like he's like all my dreams have come true.
Right? I mean, it was just so hysterical. He's like moving at sloth speed. I mean, it's just such a
Complete,
joy. That's
completely
what the band
brilliant.
does.
Right.
Okay.
And then they threw in a huge jam with the ACDC bag. Obviously, it was inserted in to move Tela through the crowd, but I mean, a fantastic jam. The songs were rearranged, right? Did that throw you off that the songs were rearranged? You were like, wait, what's going on?
No, I had no fucking clue. I was just so in the moment. I was just like, I was trying to eat it all up. It's, I think we're all still processing. And, on Twitter this morning, I said, because I had watched somebody else's new like video, their perspective. We all have different perspectives. We all saw different things. So video that I posted, right, of the rhombus kind of constructing for the first time, which looks like the rhombus itself is a piece of art, right? To create something totally new, which is what Tate Productions did. And they said, like, they listed like 5 new things that they built from Tela being able to fly. I mean, she was spinning.
Mhm.
I don't know how many times she spun around, but they had to have something on a motor up there spinning
Right.
her around like that.
Right.
I
She
mean,
on her website, she lists herself as an aerialist and a
yeah,
dancer. So
but she wasn't spinning at that lightning speed along with Trey's
playing right. Yeah.
right?
Your brain's all shook up after that. They it remind you know what it reminded me of a little bit was that antelope they did at the Great Went or Clifford Ball or one of them where they had the woman on the huge ribbons spinning
Ooh,
around during
I
it.
don't even know.
Oh yeah, back in '97. I think it was the Great Went, the antelope there. One of them they had that. But yeah, so let's talk about Tila. What is your
What,
impression of Tila in the overall arc of the story?
what's up with Tila? Okay, it's not just Tila. To me, it's like all the women in the pantheon of the Phish catalog or canon, if you will. All
Mhm.
right. We got Susie Greenberg, right, which the Dude of Life wrote, and
Angry.
she's forgetful, right? She doesn't, okay, hi. Doesn't remember anybody's name. Okay, so like not painted in the best, like, but not the worst. Who else? Oh, we got Esther.
Right.
Poor Esther. She's getting chased out of town. We got Reba. She's like some crazy mad scientist, right? She's concocting who knows what. Um,
Witches. We have a few witches running around.
yeah. Joy. Joy is just depressed. I
Right.
don't I don't know what's going on with Joy. I love her. She's sparkly. We want her to come back,
Right.
not all, I mean, but we want Joy to be happy. We want all of us to be
Right.
happy. And so I'm just saying we need some, I don't know, more strong women songs. and which we identify with. I mean, come on, I identify with Blazon. Cool, good. But we made that what it is, a legalization anthem.
Right.
It had nothing to do with weed. It was all about a comet. And but yeah, so what I'm just saying about Tela is, so she's a spy. Do we know if she's good or if she's bad?
Double agent.
Did you see those
Maybe.
looks she was giving? Who was that? Colonel Forbin,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
When the embrace, like at the end, I
Yeah.
think Scott Marks, his archive got like an incredible, like you see the two of them, and you're
Right.
like, this is like,
And Trey refused to answer. That's like the one thing that Trey did not reveal. Is Teal a spy? I know, but you don't, or whatever he said.
right? I mean, and that's the beauty of the lore, right? The
Right.
beauty is, I'm like, where's Fishman? There he is. Okay. Uh, I wore this for Mag Kaz, her favorite.
Nice. Uh, but
Yeah. So
for
we'll see.
me, Tila being the only woman in Gamehenge, and we can talk about how it was altered a little bit for this New Year's with Joe Lampert, being Aaron Wolf. But it seems like something that a 19-year-old guy would write. Well, we have to have a love interest, so let's just throw this woman Tila into the story. But I don't ever felt like she got the full development she should have, and that's maybe why she is the character that everyone speculates about.
Right. And so maybe that's what we need is Tila's point of view. So I'm going to prompt all, writers out there. Actually have a whole bunch of, I don't know if you can see these orange penguin books up there. It's an author named Angela Carter. And she is contemporary British fiction. Like her and Salman Rushdie were best friends. But Angela Carter, woman writer, not a lot of people know her, but she rewrote fairy tales from a woman's point of view.
Oh,
And she
cool.
got these incredible books. So, read some Angela Carter, some British fiction, if you will. And I mean, it is amazing. The worlds that she creates in Nights at the Circus. This could probably be one of these, like, you could compare the two, Nights at the Circus and Gamehenge. And, there's things that you could pick apart from each. Anyways, it's cool. But yeah, in terms of development of a character, we really don't know that much. And if we think about what Trey was doing, what was his major?
English or some nonsense. Like, I have a degree in poetry, so that's the biggest nonsense there is.
Musical composition, I believe. But he writes a whole friggin' musical. I haven't posted this yet, but it's his advisor from the first day at Goddard College, and it's now his graduation. And they're at a podium, and she's talking about Trey. She compares him to Stravinsky. Now, I grew up, in the orchestra, playing piano, wanting to play bass, but and I have some music theory. Trey would have had to graduate with a lot of music theory, a lot of composition. And I know Ernie Stiers, who was, I think, his biggest mentor,
Yeah.
who
Flat
he probably
fee.
studied
The song
with.
Flat Fee that Phish does or
Yeah,
did back in the early 90s was that.
right. But this woman was his like school advisor. So, right, Trey got kicked out of UVM. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, I
And
think
then
so. He
didn't
went back to
Paige,
Jersey for a semester and then ended up at Goddard.
yes. And didn't Paige get like $50, or was it Fishman? Somebody had
Paige, I think, yeah, Paige was the older one, so he got the little
so he
stipend or
brought it.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you have these guys, right? And Trace, right? My mom lived in Montpelier, and that's where my dad went to St. Michael's. They both went to college. They went to Lyndon State College. It was a teaching college in Vermont. And my mom says that Goddard was like the hippiest of all the schools. Like they were so liberal. She was like, they had these big beards and they were, when you see Trey, you're like, yeah, he would be a Goddard kid, right?
What we call a wook now.
Yeah. Yeah, mom, those are wooks. That's what you call yourself, Jennifer? Yes, mom.
I
It's a
love it.
kind of like a term of endearment.
Right, exactly. It goes
Yeah.
also, I think, with you talking about, this, what was the woman's name who's retelling the stories?
Oh, sorry. Trey's media advisor or
No,
advisor.
no, behind you on the bookshelf.
Oh, Angela Carter.
Angela Carter.
Yes.
It goes to me to a question which I've asked quite a few people on my podcast about. Why aren't there more women in jam bands? I mean, Karina Reichman is making a name for herself now, but they're very, they're 50% of the world, more than 50% are women. Why aren't musicians 50% in jam bands? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's just the overall patriarchy, and we're slowly dismantling it. It's not just women, it's lots of minorities, right? And it's taken this long for even like putting aside when women could vote, putting aside that we just haven't even, that we still don't even have equal pay. How about that? Right? There's a lot of catching up in the world to do, and maybe our culture, our Phish culture, I don't know, there's so many more women than men just in and we're a microcosm, right?
Right.
So, but I would say that Phish fans are, oh, are you fucking serious? My laptop was right on front of right, sorry. The whole time. I'm now staring at it. I'm like, it's right on.
It's staring at you.
Holy shit. Oh God, I'm such a fucking stoner. It's a gray laptop on a gray couch. Anyways. I just think that we have so much catching up to do. It's gender norms, right? When Phish started, there was no they them. There was
Mm.
no even thought about that. Even gay marriage only happened in 2.0, no 3.0.
Yeah. People would have laughed if you said pot would be legal.
Yeah, right. Who are they going to put in jail? Who are they going to ticket?
I still on the lot look over my shoulder. I'm like traumatized from 1.0.
Somebody like I like I was like in the garden still, like worried. And my friend was like, it's legal. I was like, I know. I think I'm just conscious of people around me too.
Definitely, definitely.
But
All right,
whatever.
so,
Oh, I
well,
don't know.
let's get back to Gamehenge. We had Joe Lampert, fantastic. I love them to death.
Yes.
Fantastic. Appeared, I guess, at the Bowie show. She was part of the Beacon run. She was
Yep.
one of Trey's clones. She got a starring role, and that duet with Wilson has been. I've seen both sides of it, but I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked to almost have like heard more. I wonder if there could, I don't know. I think she's a great talent. Uh she, yeah, thinking about the Beacon run, I guess my last time like visually seeing her was I saw some video of James Casey's tribute from Brooklyn Bull, and I believe that she was there.
Yep.
So,
Yep. She
she
showed up at
works a
Tom
lot.
Marshall's thing, maybe too.
Yeah. So you know, I think her and Trey like have a nice relationship. And like even at the Beacon run, she was a little bit, more vocal too. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of her performance on stage, like I thought she was very commanding. I mean, she's a big person,
Mm,
she's got like long limbs, and I remember like a lot of, like
right.
this. I thought she played the character great. Yeah. In terms
Yeah.
of
Eric,
uh
somebody commented that it was over the top. I think that it's Broadway though, is the thing that Broadway is like that. When you're on stage in front of a live audience, you have to overdo it. And when we're watching it on a screen, it might not translate as well.
I mean, Annie's voice was a little grating to me. It was loud. I felt like it was mixed really loud. And I'm like, I get it, you're the grandma, you know? But like I would have turned her down a little bit. It could have just been where I was too. Look, I have no complaints. I have no complaints. I loved it. I thought the retelling was great, but there weren't a lot of, women figures. And then there's this one line about Trey says about my gaslighting dad, and they
Mhm.
say a stronger female, presence or
Is
and
needed, right.
yeah. So I
So
think
and
oh, I think they know that
right,
like
and it wasn't, Joe wasn't Aaron Wolf, it was the Wolf.
I think it's great. I think it is supposed to make us ask these questions and talk about it,
Right.
you and I have friends who have kids who are they them,
Mhm.
and I've seen how you have to think about it, right? It just doesn't come natural to us because it's new to us. And
Mhm.
things that are new are sometimes scary because we just don't have the experience. But the more times that you do it, the more comfortable you get and you understand that, yes, at birth, I was assigned being a female, but how can you like there are times that I not like feel male or have penis envy if you want to get into Freud shit, but I'm just saying like if from birth I didn't know that I was a female, like how can you explain that I love fish so much? I'm like a dude in that respect. Like
Right.
people like most wives in, the fish community are like, yeah, my wife is letting me go. And I'm sure
Mhm.
most wives are like, please
Go.
go, But when you're a fish wife, like I met my Women's Cannabis Club co-founder, Kim, at I think a 12, I think it was their 30th. When was it? It was a 12:30. But anyways, she was in her seat pumping because she had given birth to her kid, Fee.
Mhm.
And I was in the bathroom pumping with a hand pump, because sorry, I don't mean to get too technical and all of
No,
it for these
if
guys,
if
but
you have kids, you've been through it.
yeah. And if you're a woman in the fish scene who's a mom, right, there's a lot more of us now,
Mhm.
mama ragers and fish chicks. And, we definitely turned the rail to be
Right.
more women. You look
Right.
back in like the 90s and, you had a few women with dreads.
I'm just glad that I have my 17-year-old because if I have a question about something, she's so good with me. I'm like, "Can you explain this to me so I'm not a complete idiot when I walk out into the world?" And she's just such a beautiful soul. She explains it to me and, you know,
It's
that's a
good, but
great
like,
thing.
there's some guys in our community who, need this type of information,
Mhm.
right? Wouldn't go to another guy. And like I'm sure, there is, still homophobia. Um, but I would think that in our community that there's less and less of it.
Yeah, exactly. Groove Safe is doing fantastic stuff out there with, trying to help us all work through this because behavior that not that it was right but was accepted in 1993 is not where you are today,
I mean, all probably have been victims of it. I hate to say, you're walking past somebody and they inappropriately touch you. I was at a post show and I was by a bar, and this was years ago, but I just had some drunk dude fall on me, like intentionally, and like use me to like stop himself. and like, full hands. And I was like, yo, dude, like, not okay. And he's wasted. And the bartender, though, was mortified, like, mortified. Like, it's not okay ever to put your hands on somebody else. That's
Right.
even like bro to bro violence. It's just not
Mm,
accepted. What your mother said about keeping your hands to yourself
was probably
applies in
right.
all situations.
Right.
So, like, that time, just like, it's now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see your buddy do something and he thinks it's funny and cool, like, don't. Like, you correct him. That's what this community is about.
Right.
You
Right.
know, looking out for one another.
That's what we got to do. All right, let's get this one, and then we'll probably wrap up because I don't want to keep you all day. But I know that why don't you tell the story so everyone can know, and then give us
Yeah.
the conclusion of it.
All right. So I don't know did it say? Did I get to meet Trey?
It said, "Did you hear from Trey after you dropped off his birthday present?"
Yeah. So we got the nicest thank you note from Trey. I mean, he thanks all of us so much. He said his manager, Patrick Jordan, relayed the message to me with the photo and I hand wrote 100 names on those cards. And Patrick said that Trey said that his heart was just so full of gratitude. And Trey wrote to us, you guys have no idea how much this means to me. And I think, that's our community. That's the love. That's the appreciation that we have, after everything that we just like witnessed in Gamehenge. And, you know, thank you, Trey. We and all of Phish, and so to have everybody, so many of us contribute, just to say thank you for staying sober, that recovery is not easy, that it is an everyday thing. It's a choice. And because of his choices, this is what we have. So yeah, they're really, it's been a really beautiful thing, what we all have together, our friendships, our connection with the band. And I got to talk to Melanie at Divided Sky. So because we raised $1,000, more than $1,000, we're going to make a donation to Divided Sky, in Trey's name, from all of us. And I said, the 17th anniversary present is furniture. Do you need something for the center? She's like, we're good on furniture. It's really cold here, so we're not going to plant a tree. She was like, I really want the fans to think about something. Like, she was like, I want you to decide what you want to give. And I said, do you know, like, when somebody beats cancer and they're leaving the hospital and they ring a bell? I'd love for something similar for us to be able to donate, maybe like a Tibetan healing sound bell. And, they basically look like gongs.
Mm-hmm.
But when finished your recovery, or
You got the
your time at Divided Sky, upon your exit, and she loved it. Melanie thought that it was a great idea. So, if everybody thinks it's a good idea, we'll get the bell right from Nepal.
there you go, and then you can ring that bell. That's fantastic. I love it. I
Thank
love
you
it
to
so much.
everybody who participated. Yeah.
So what else do we have going on? You have anything else you're looking to besides the 420 out at the Sphere?
The Sphere. Well, I won't be in Mexico, but maybe we'll do some type of, in New York City, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of fans now here. So maybe we could I just love getting together. Our community is so special to me, and I just want to hang with everybody. So maybe we could, figure out something, bar, webcast.
Right. Are you going to be in Dover?
Oh yeah, at the STD.
Yeah.
Save the date.
Yeah, for the festival.
An STD.
Huh?
Thanks, Fish.
Yeah. Yes, that's gonna be fantastic, gonna be fantastic. I guess they
I,
have nowhere to go but up, but I was having quite a few moments of after I left Big Cypress, like, what do they do now?
right.
You know?
And what do you think? I mean, there's been so much talk, about the
Right,
down rating, and I know you guys
right.
have covered it, but
That's
are,
crazy.
are they going to go back to rating, or are we done with rating?
I hope they're done with rating. It's kind of dumb. I mean, we do it sometimes for like rank all the Halloween shows and
Right.
stuff, but really it's just fodder to talk about all the Halloween shows for an hour, you know.
Exactly.
As much as anything, it isn't a game of my show is better than yours.
Right. But that's but it's hard to say because there are so many. It's like 1.0 versus 3.0, right? Because
Mm,
so many of us who saw the bulk of shows in 3.0, obviously, even if I'm a 1.0 and a 3, we're in all point O's, right? Um, I take them as standalone pieces of art.
mhm.
And they all have their own intrinsic value. And how you appreciate art is how you appreciate art. And it's really hard to put a number rating on anything. So
Well,
I'm fine with ratings to go away.
mhm.
Propaganda stopped doing his unless he's on like someplace else doing it. But
I think he's on the elephant. He's
okay,
over with the mastodon. Um, I hope that some of these songs like Forbin and Mockingbird, even if they don't do Forbin, play Mockingbird in a second set. That would be fantastic out of one jam and just flow into another one. I mean,
more Gamehenge, the better. Yeah. What were you saying about the like songs that were out of order or
oh, yeah, like, when the original tape, I think it's Lizards, Tela, Wilson, AC/DC Bag, Forbin, Mockingbird, Sloth, Possum, and they did, Lizards, then Punch You in the Eye, then
right?
AC/DC Bag, then Tela, then with so it was just and, a lot of people, there was the group that was saying that wasn't a real Gamehenge because it wasn't in order with the narration, but Trey said
But
beforehand,
Trey
"I'm gonna
said
tell you the real story."
and so that's what it will be, right? So if this goes to Broadway, so
It's
there's
gonna
a
go to
lot of
Broadway. Oh, it's going to Broadway. It's got to.
but there's lots of things that have to happen. Things just, you have to have producers, you have to have the book, right? Not only read the book, it's write the book. And that's why this is the real story is I think that they are going to have to either add more and maybe that's what they do for Broadway,
Mm,
right? Which is bring Tila in maybe in a bigger role.
right. There you
That's what
go.
I'm
Write
saying.
some new
Who's going
pieces.
to write?
Well, but if you take it to Broadway too, you have there you go. I see you got ideas. You take it to Broadway, you're gonna have another 40 minutes of dialogue written in between the songs. So you could probably may be able to keep it, but in that 40 minutes of dialogue, that's where you build her character and answer some of these questions or leave them open. So 2 years from now, we're still talking about it.
hmm I mean, there's so many places you can go with this, right? I mean,
You
there's
know?
a lot of undeveloped, like newsflash, Forbin and Tila.
I, this is what Trey always wanted, though. I think that this was the end game from the beginning was for him to because he did the hands on a hard body, so he got his feet wet. He learned about everything. Boom! All right, now I'm going to take my thing and
And in a previous episode, you guys were talking about this. He was a musical theater guy. There's a photo of him. I don't know if it was The Wizard of Oz. I mean, and don't forget over the summer, and at SPAC,
mhm,
right? Like the Munchkin Land teases. I mean, he's clearly like thinking about this.
mhm.
He was always a musical theater guy. Not to mention that he wrote songs with his mom, who
No
worked at
dogs allowed. No dogs allowed in the airport.
and what was Gus Christmas or what was it's written in the thesis, right?
Right, the dog, the Christmas story, right about
Yeah,
the dog. Yeah.
So, like, there's a whole lot of source material out there that we don't even know, like, that we don't have our hands on. Hands on a Hard Body, I went to the preview. I sat a row behind Trey next to Hey Scotty B, and it was more joyful for me to experience Trey watching Hands on a Hard Body than Hands on a Hard Body. It's a
Right.
very static show. It's based around like a Ford
A
truck, like
truck.
a,
Right.
truck that it's a contest in Texas, right? Where they're all trying to win the truck. And these are things they used to do, right?
Right.
These contests, whoever kept their hand on the truck the longest would win the truck.
Hmm.
Burn That Bridge, which is a great song that Trey brought to Phish. I love Burn That Bridge. And I love it with Tab too, like the full, horns. But yeah, Jen Bernstein loves Burn That Bridge. I don't know. The Hands on a Hard Body was okay. I mean, it didn't last that long on Broadway. Would lizards have the legs to keep everybody in, seats?
Yep.
Let's tell a more compelling story. That's the
Yep.
challenge.
Right. So what you got to do is write the rough draft and just throw it at him and be like, "Here it is. Come on, guys, work with
We
me.
we can write together. I mean,
We'll knock it out. Give it a couple months. We'll get it together there. You
just
got to move quick on this because other people are got their wheels turning too."
go for it. No, I mean, look, I'm an editor, so
Right.
my best thing that I do is I compile. And I'm really more of an editor than a writer. Writers who wake up every day and they have the urge to, to express themselves in that way. I am like, I worked at High Times. I'm an editor who, like, I put I piece everything together. It's not to say I can't write.
Right.
You have to be a really good writer to be an editor.
Right.
Um, but
Definitely.
I
There
would
we go.
welcome to write with Trey, or I can feed him, Tela's backstory as a woman
Right.
warrior in the Phish scene.
A woman's perspective. I feel like that all of them have daughters, and
Oh,
that when I had my first daughter, I was like, "Whoa, 180! Everything I've ever thought is wrong," you know. And then they grow
it,
up.
it's beautiful.
It
Yeah, and
is.
Tom too, right? Pebbles and Marbles. I believe he wrote for Anna.
Yeah, it's cool.
Anyways,
All right, we're gonna
yeah,
leave it there, and I'm
maybe,
gonna roll the music. Hang out for a minute so I can talk to you. Thank you so much.
yeah.